Oh, Karen, thank you so much for being willing to do this video for us and sharing something that's very personal to you for people's encouragement here today. First of all, just tell us a bit about yourself, where you live.
Okay. Living in Cockfosters. And I'm married to Chris. We've got 2 children who are both at university now.
Big stage. And can you just tell us a bit about how your journey with the Lord began?
So my parents are Christians, and they brought us up, me and my sister, very much, read the Bible with us and prayed with us and prayed for us, which I'm massively grateful for, looking back. So I don't think I don't ever remember not being aware of God's existence. And then when I was early teens, I decided that I wanted to follow Jesus. But it was very much like, I suppose it was like, Jesus is great. He seems really good. And so I've just got to try really hard to be like him. And that's what I wanted to do. And yeah.
So what did that look like in your life?
Well, I suppose it was fine to start with, but I suppose I was just beginning my teens. And so that just got quite complicated because life tends to get complicated when you're in your teens. I got bullied at school quite a bit. And I also had a boyfriend that my mum and dad didn't approve of, and that was a bit disastrous, and he wasn't very nice to me. So I guess I ended up feeling like I'd made a mess of a lot of things, that I caused a lot of trouble to my mum and dad. And a kind of like a failure, really, I suppose, just thinking I've made a mess of everything, and I've let everybody down, including God. So, yeah.
And so how was your picture changed of who God was through that, maybe, or what was developing?
I don't know. I think I suppose I just felt like I needed to try and make up for being a problem. So then I started being really focused in my academic work. So it was like, I suppose I needed to try and make myself better. But I didn't understand God's grace. I didn't understand that Jesus had done that for me and that he could do that internal work and give me a pure heart. And so I focused on external things to try and make myself better and good enough. So that started with like academic work, and just trying to be really good at everything. And then also, I suppose in the sort of time that I was in sixth form, I became quite controlling with food and what I ate. And that became something that I felt like I was good at and I was in control of and I was, doing well at, which is, because a lot of people are like, oh, I really wish I could lose weight, but I just find it really hard. And so to think that I could just control what I was eating, something's like, oh yeah, I can do that. So that became, but then the amazing, the awful thing about that is that actually it ends up controlling you. And so I wasn't actually in control. It became something that I was dependent on, and I was eating less and less. And then ultimately I became anorexic when I was in my first year at university.
And you ended up in hospital?
No, I didn't get into hospital. I regular GP visits and counselling, but yeah.
And how did you manage to sort of view God and yourself in all of that and know that he was there for you in that struggle?
Well, yeah, I mean, he was so there. It's amazing because, the first thing was, so we had a family friend who was a Christian and who had eating disorders in the past and was really helpful to me and my family. But one thing that she said that just really stuck with me was she said, I know you're going to get through this because you're a Christian and you've got Jesus and he's the one who's going to get you through it. So that really stuck with me. I know, amazing. And I think I just got to probably my lowest point and I felt really ill. And I just thought, actually, maybe this is it. I'm just going to die. And I realised that if I carried on the way that I was just heading for death. And it just became really clear to me. And I realised that I didn't actually want to die, but that I couldn't actually do anything about it. That I was really trapped. I just could not make myself do what I needed to do to get better. And I think realised then that I needed somebody to help me. I needed a saviour and I needed Jesus. And what this lady had said to me just was like, okay, it's Jesus that can help me. So that was a bit of a turning point. It's like, okay, I want to live, but I can't do this on my own. Trying to do things my way and control my life my way has not worked. So that was a kind of admission, okay, I need a saviour.
And how did that impact, again, how you did things and the priorities that you gave to?
I mean, it was still hard. It was a real battle, like to eat and stuff, but I did do it with, lots of help and counselling and stuff. But then I went back to university because I had to have a year out to deal with my health. And I went back to university and I just started reading the Bible and praying like I'd not really done before, because I knew that was my hope. It was like, this is my hope for being able to survive this. I was really scared of going back, but I just thought, right, well, if I'm going to do this, this is how it's going to be. So, yeah, so that changed things quite a lot.
So spiritual food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And how did people around you respond to what was going on with you? What was helpful? What was unhelpful about?
Yeah, I mean, I had a few years where I was up and down a bit, and I did have a bit of a relapse when I got married and moved to a new place and new church and everything. That was quite a tough one. But then, it's amazing because that's where, again, God just provides the right people around. And church is an amazing thing, isn't it? Because I met this lady at church and she used to give us lifts to church because we didn't have a car at the time. She was giving me a lift and she just mentioned one day, oh, I'm so thankful that for my children, because I thought maybe I wouldn't have children at one point because I had eating disorders when I was younger. And, she's kind of so open about it. And I just said to her, like, oh, I'd really like to talk to you about that sometime, because I realised that I was struggling, And that ended up being such an amazing friendship. So we're still friends now, even though we're miles apart. So she'd have me around for coffee and we would read the Bible together and pray together. And she just became kind of mentor, really. And I could talk to her about eating and my struggles with food. And she helped me, I think, to be able to put the two together. So what I'm struggling with in my life and the difference. What does the Bible say about that? What does the Bible say about who I am?
How helpful.
Yeah, which is amazing.
But also that there were no taboos.
Yeah, exactly.
Say whatever was going on.
Because I think like eating disorders can be a thing that you don't want to talk about, and it's just so important. That's why I'm doing this interview, because I just think, we've got to talk about these things because that enables other people. If she hadn't said what she said, then I would never have said, "Can I talk to you?" And we wouldn't have had that partnership. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story with us and the encouragement that you've had from God's relationship with you. That's brought you this far in your struggle. As we're just thinking about, I'm sure there've been testing times over the years, but as we think about how we can pray for you and encourage you, and encourage others who are going through these things, what would you like to say to us that we could be praying?
Oh, I think just that I always remember God's grace, because that was really what changed things for me. Just realizing that I didn't have to make myself good enough, that it was Jesus. Jesus had died for that. And so just that I keep rejoicing in that. And I think I've learned what it means to rejoice in my weakness, and just that God has given us things that we struggle with, and it's an opportunity for him to be glorified in us. And that's such a great thing, so to be able to talk about my weaknesses, like Paul says, I can boast about my weaknesses because it's where God's shown in my life. And actually that's a real privilege that God wants to use us to, to show his glory. So yeah, that I keep doing that. And I think also just to pray that I keep remembering his power, because it is amazing to think that he has done what he's done in my life, and that shapes my prayers for other people, So when I'm praying for people, that I realise that he's the one who can change the biggest things, the things that seem like, oh, that'll never change.
Well, I'm sure you're a massive encouragement to people that you meet in every way because of what God's done in you. And I think you're happy if people want to chat to you or follow up. Obviously, you're not with us today in real life, but if you want to contact Karen, then do get in touch with me and I can link you up. But we're so grateful to you today, Karen, for sharing those encouragements and the hard times.
Thanks for having me.